Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. On this 28th, Tuesday, the 28th of November, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Got a good show for you guys. There's a weather anomaly that's occurring in Europe, and it's causing tremendous havoc with a lot of snow. Uh, Mostly it's snow. It's like a giant blizzard. I wonder if the Atlantic recirculatory current has anything to do with this. It's been slowing lately. You know that Europe, if they used to call it the Gulf Stream, and if it stops, and this is what I was always told when I was a young guy, if it ever slows down or stops, Europe is kept warm by that warm flow of water that comes up. Well, don't know what's going on here, but this is a tremendous snow that's occurring in Europe right now, and it's really wreaking havoc on Ukraine and on the war in Ukraine. Death toll rises to 10 in the Ukrainian storm. Worst weather in Odessa, Kharkiv, Kiev is seen. They're already working with emergency services, and they're already overstretched by war. But look at them. They're trying to get their cars out of the snow. Blizzard conditions. It's just horrendous. It says 10 people have died in Ukraine as icy storms of snow and rain are sweeping from the Black Sea, crippling infrastructure, blocking roads, cutting power, right to the country's interior. Now, a Ukrainian spy chief's wife is undergoing treatment because she's been poisoned with heavy metals. There's a lot of different heavy metals that people can be poisoned by. So, sometimes, we're poisoned by metals and we don't even know we're being poisoned by metals. One of the very poisonous metals is mercury. And for years they used mercury in people's teeth. Believe it or not, they put it right in your mouth. Fill your mouth full of mercury, what was called mercury amalgam. A dentist would do it. Now they don't. They don't use the mercury amalgam so much anymore. Now they use this new some type of a light sensitive epoxy or something. It's like an epoxy base or something, some sort of a substrate material that they use. They put a special light on it to harden it. That's what they use now. But for years, when I was a younger guy, they used to use mercury amalgam. They had I don't know if you guys have heard of it or not, something called uh, uh, a panic attack. And there was a period in time where it was like in medicine, there was an awful lot of people across the United States having panic attacks. Not so much now. But go back about 10, 15, 20 years ago. Tremendous in the medical industry. It's very common. It was very common then. Panic attacks. Well, in the old days, there used to be guys called hatters. Now, I'm bringing this together for you guys. Just stay with me for a second. There used to be guys called hatters out there. And in that tale of Alice in Wonderland, there was the Mad Hatter. And this is truth. Hatters, people who used to work on hats, and this was very common back in the 1800s and stuff. There was an awful lot of hats. People wore a lot more hats back then. You ever seen the old pictures, of the ladies standing around the 1800s and they all had these big hats on, these fancy ornamental hats? Well, the hatters were the guys who made those hats. And they used to actually quite literally go crazy. How did they go crazy? They had panic attacks. Why? It's because they worked with mercury. Now maybe you know the rest of the story. Because they're filling our teeth full of mercury. Not so much anymore. Now the people aren't having a panic attack so much anymore. Now this is just a theory of mine. But might be some validity to it. Just saying. Okay, so anyway, they're suspecting poisoning with these heavy metals. There's other heavy metals that poison us. They've tried to remove a lot of them. There's lead in paint. Lead's very toxic. They've removed most of the lead from paint. There's lead in our pipes, piping of our house, our water. If you've got an older house, more than likely the solder joints on your copper pipes inside your house are possibly got lead in them, and it makes its way into your drinking water in something that's called parts per million. So if the water was tested for lead, you'd find parts per million. ppm, parts per million. Okay, I got to move on. Getting a little bit bogged down here. Israel is extending this truce. It says more Israeli hostages. They're expecting to free even more as the Gaza truce is extended. It says White House has warned Israel about civilian loss of life in southern Gaza when military campaign resumes. So it is going to resume at a certain point. It's pity. It's pity they couldn't make this truce or ceasefire last longer, but they are making it last a couple days longer. There shows a picture of them with the helicopter, and they're bringing, I guess, the captives out, you know. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is just my opinion here. A lot of people say we're in World War III. Maybe they're right. Very possibly they're right. I would say already in World War III. Well, the war is kind of like a simmering pot right now. You know, it's like it's boiling and it's ongoing. In other words, what I'm trying to say. And why doesn't it flare up, and why doesn't well, Russia and China are sitting over there, and the Fed's doing such a good job of feeding the economy of the West poison. They're sitting over there and they're waiting while Chairman Powell's policies take hold. And they're watching. The Russians and the Chinese are watching what's going to happen. Well, they kind of know what's going to happen. We're coming in for the hardest landing we've ever come in for in our lives. That's what we're coming in for. We're like a parachuter coming into a downdraft, and he's going to ram into the ground at 90 miles an hour. That's what we're coming in for. You know, we got these enormous markets out there. And draining the liquidity out is not a good idea. A full and extensive crash of the everything bubble, and I mean if it crashes too big and too hard, there's nothing that they can really do to stop the, what would I call it, wreckage. Say they come in and they make everybody whole again. The Fed. Say it crashes beyond their wildest dreams. And say it all even locks up. The system locks up because there's not enough liquidity. Everybody's going bankrupt. There's margin calls, everything else. It's just a total wipeout mess. Real estate markets collapsing. Everything starts to collapse on them. Because they think that they're trying to get to the terminal rate to stop inflation. And they passed the terminal rate. It's back there in the rearview mirror about 2 or 3 months ago. And they still haven't lowered rates. It says the U.S. Central Bank will likely need to raise borrowing costs further. This is according to Fed's Bowman. Still expects another rate hike. So in other words, They're sitting back and they say, well, the patient hasn't died yet. We had him drink a quart of poison. They're sitting there watching. And they're saying, well, let's give him some more poison. Well, the poison just hasn't taken hold yet. The whole thing's going to collapse. And they're still talking about this 2% inflation target? Are they insane? Well, China and Russia start to sitting back there, and they're just rubbing their hands together and looking, and they're waiting, and they're saying, "Oh, it's coming, it's coming," and they're gonna. The Fed's our biggest helper. They could maybe they'll send the Fed a medal for helping to destroy the whole Western, bring down the whole Western system. Because this is what I'm saying to you guys. If they try to fix it, say they make everybody whole, say it strikes, the derivatives market starts to melt down, the corporate bond market starts to melt down, the all of the other stuff, credit card companies are not getting their payments, and they're melting down, the banking system's melting down, the whole thing is just starting to fall apart. And there's a number of bankruptcies mixed in, of too big to fail bankruptcies coming in. And the whole system's becoming structurally unsound. You know what the Fed's going to do? That's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to come in and make everybody whole. No matter what it costs, because they got to save their system. But then at that point, they throw us into massive inflation that comes almost instantaneously. So either way, we're going down. The Russians and Chinese are sitting there, and they're licking their chops. They're waiting for this. This is the big one. This is what they dream of. This is what makes them smile when they get up in the morning every morning, thinking about how the United States is going to collapse financially because we've built our house. It would be like two guys walking down the beach, and they say, look at that guy. He's built his house on a sand dune. Oh, yeah, it's a lovely house. But all we got to do is wait, and you watch. Watch when the tide comes in. That's what's going to happen, you know. And, I mean, it's because they've set the whole system up as a Ponzi scheme right from the get-go to enrich themselves. And, oh, boy, gosh, it sure has enriched them at the cost of us. We're the suckers. Let's move on. Iran is finalizing a deal to get fighter jets. And there is the Iranian leader shaking hands with Putin over the deal. The deal's been finalized, and now they're going to get fighter jets. Putin to arm Israel's biggest enemy with fighter jets amid the Gaza conflict. Now, I bet you that they can move them fighter jets in there awful quick. You know, it took the West, time to get things to Ukraine. It took them months and months and months to get things there. I bet you Putin will have those fighter jets there in no time. He's, they're not stymied like we're all stymied on everything. Speaking about military assets to Ukraine, well, NATO member country, the Czech Republic, sorry, we can't send any military items to Ukraine, says the Czech Republic's minister. There you go. Now, where is all the semiconductors coming from? Do you know they're in everything? Everything we use, from our cell phones to our microwave oven we cook our meal on, to our cars. Semiconductors are little chips. And it says South Korea's Samsung. Well, we've all heard of Samsung. They're a device manufacturer. They earn 12.4% of the industry's revenue. Just Samsung alone. TSMC, different companies. Global Foundries, UMC, SMIC, different companies come out of Taiwan, a lot of it. It's a plum. Boy, gosh, China really wants it. Well, how could they get Taiwan? The United States says, hey, you guys go into war there? You're going to come up against us. Right? China says, oh. Well, I'm going to tell you what. Let's think back a little while here. You remember Hong Kong? Nobody talks about Hong Kong much anymore. Remember the big protests in Hong Kong? Everything? How'd China get Hong Kong? There's more than one way to take over a country. You can take it over with armies, or you can take it over legally. Just think about that for a minute. Now, the silver price today is $24.87. It's up 25 cents on the day so far. Let's just keep our fingers crossed for silver. But, you know, there's a lot of guys out there, maybe they don't have enough silver, and they're hoping the price is going to come back down again. You know, some people who are in the buying right now. And then there's the holders out there who are holding on to some silver. They're hoping the price will go up. And yes, the price has been going up. Let's just check gold here just for a second. See what gold's doing. Gold is really up today, $22.80. That's a big move for gold. 2036. That's a big day for gold. Taking a look at cryptos today, we're looking at 37,744. So crypto's going up a little bit. Ethereum is at 2046. And XRP is at 60.9 cents. Cryptos has been looking strong the last few weeks. And I thought yesterday, I thought she's going down a little bit, but now she's right back up there to 37,752. Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 181 points at 35,512. And taking a look at crude oil, it's up $1.95. That's a pretty big jump for crude. 76.81 it is today. Bonds and rates today, we're seeing fallen yields. The U.S. 30-year is down 1.3 basis points at 4.52. And the U.S. 10-year is at 4.34, and it's down 4 basis points. Taking a look at the U.S. dollar index today, and the dollar's fallen off. It's at 102.78. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. Push that notification icon and everything else. I really appreciate that. I appreciate my audience. This really means a lot to me that I get a few new viewers on here and everything. Thank you guys for watching my show. I really appreciate you guys out there, and you guys are the greatest. You guys have a great afternoon this afternoon, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.